Thank you, Rick. He is the only one awake, alert, and ready. I don't understand. The rest of y'all still napping, but that's okay. We don't know that one. We'll just let it be. As you know, we stop every month, and we want to recognize the men and women who are doing exceptional things and in all sorts of ways and some special achievements. And we're going to do that this morning with our officers and employees of the month. And we're going to start off with our Employee of the Month for January 2025, Miss Belinda Howell. So there we go. There we go. It says Belinda Howell is one of the many that came to us from Core Civic and has quickly become a part of our close-knit family. She has taken over the monthly bill into the state of Tennessee for our locally sentenced felons and is also responsible for the annual final cost settlement. This responsibility is the single most important budget line item, and it computes the total cost reimbursement from the state to the sum of $20 million each year. She's done an outstanding job of overseeing that responsibility with very little direction needed. As far as family is concerned, she fits right in. She even passed the Miss Price fit test with flying colors. Her interaction with coworkers and employees are always professional and friendly. She's always willing to provide a helping hand without hesitation. As a testament to this, she is still in contact from time to time with Miss Francis. Being in the finance division does not always provide those spectacular opportunities, and God forbid you have to work for Pete Lutz, but that's what it says. But sometimes it is that person who comes to work every day, puts in a complete 8-hour day, which Pete never does, exceptional. I'm just reading it, what it says. And does exceptional work and does this with a smile on her face. And Belinda Howell is that person. Let's give it up. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hang on one second. We'll give you some goodies. We'll give you 8 hours of leave on your credit card there. And there's our coin and one of our pens. And we have a tumbler at your seat. So thank you very much, Belinda. Thank you. So our Officer of the Month for January 2025 is this Miss Viniece McBride. Let's say hello to her. It says in December, Corporal McBride was on a medcom for a DDC inmate who had a possible overdose. While at the hospital, the nurse caring for the inmate gave the inmate 2 aluminum Sprite cans. Corporal McBride took the items and disposed of them. While the nurse was checking the inmate vitals, the inmate stated that he needed to use the restroom. He had been using the clear urinal container that was given to him with no issue. He was told by the nurse that he had to wait. Once the assessment was completed, the nurse notified Corporal McBride that he was ready to go to the restroom. Using her security awareness, Corporal McBride felt like something was suspicious. She conducted a search of the restroom prior to the inmate entering, while Officer Gilks remained with him. She found an unlocked iPhone on the back of the paper towel dispenser and notified the supervisor. After the inmate used the restroom and was back to the room, Corporal McBride, in a professional manner, explained to the nurse the rules and restrictions of the inmate while in DCSO custody. Due to her security awareness and attention to detail, she prevented contraband from entering our facility. Great job from Ms. McBride. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hang on one second. I will give you, there is a ribbon for your uniform, a pin for you. There is 8 hours of leave on a card, and we have a tumbler for you. All right, great. Have a great day. Congratulations. My favorite part of my day is a few minutes ago, I did tell Corporal McBride I was glad she was 1 minute late because I was 5 minutes late. So it was not totally on me, but it's my favorite part of my day. And the reason is I like to just say, tell me your story. And I don't know what that means to you, but let people talk. So who would have planned it this way? It wasn't the plan. You guys nominate, and these folks are clearly the right representatives for this month. But we're sitting with 2 people who, Corporal McBride, I'm gonna put you into the time frame, right? 5 years ago today, you might know what you're doing. 5 years ago on Friday, 2 days from now, we sent people home for this weird thing that begins with a C. First time we'd heard of it. If you worked in this building today, or in admin that we used to own, today was the tornado day. So we, in admin, were packing boxes to move to some, God forbid, hospital north of here and called it home for a year and a half. So everybody in here was impacted in different ways, but let's just kind of go back. Tornadoes just happened. We're packing up, admin, to move to something called the hospital. The rest of us don't know anything about the C word, really. Hasn't impacted us at work, but it's going to in 2 days. Another little story about some guns in the walls. Remember that story? That was the most important thing we were dealing with, at least in my life, because it was really, I mean, he had just been indicted, I believe. We're all trying to figure out what's going on, so we're focused on that. We have the FBI. All the searching was going on today and tomorrow of that 5 years ago. I tell everybody all over the country that we're the only sheriff's office in the country that COVID wasn't even our biggest challenge. Somewhere in the next few months, we're asked or forced to take over a private prison, right? So all that was going on. Who in the world would come to work here? Right? Corporal McBride tells me she graduated from the hospital. I said, that's enough to be Officer of the Month. You showed up at the hospital to come to work here. God forbid. Does anybody remember that? There were stains on the carpet that I can't explain. It looked like somebody's body had been drugged through there and they didn't come clean up what was behind it. It was terrible. I remember saying out loud that anybody who comes here, and back then, they need a job. Because we were, I mean, I don't know if some of you won't know what I'm talking about, but it felt like you were entering Hugh Hefner's house, the first room on the right. It had shag carpet about that deep. It had white furniture and red, wasn't it red? God awful. If you ever got to what we called admin, it was like this horrible place. Sheila and I were talking this week that you couldn't sit down and spin in any chair because you had no room. It was just horrible. But what I'm amazed with is that somebody from Chicago applied. We tricked her into showing up one day. She comes to a hospital, goes through some sort of training. And if any of you were involved with this, it was humiliating. Because then we got the C word going on. So at graduation, some of them, we had to put the certificate on the table and say, "No, you get it, I can't touch you." There's what you know, and it's like, and with masks, we couldn't hear, you can't see, you can't get pictures made. It was horrible. Who in the world? But we tricked Corporal McBride to stay here. Graduating from the hospital, going to work, and now she's, what a great smile too, by the way. Now she comes to work and does things that were mentioned, and I'm sure there are many others. I think it's amazing. That was in the craziest time in my life, and I would argue yours too. And I'm just all, the world, right? Not just, so just think about that. So when you're talking to Corporal McBride about your story, then I spin and say, I know Belinda a little bit. She's in the building. I said, so Belinda, tell us your story. And hers starts off like this, right? I grew up in Waynesboro, Tennessee, and had a job at some place called CCA back then. And CCA, I transferred up here to Nashville, went to work at some place called CCA, which turned into Core Civic. You know what her introduction to the sheriff's office is? Sometime in October or November, 5:30 in the morning, pitch dark, you're being forced out of your environment that you work, that she transferred up here to work for, because of some god-awful divorce between private company and politics. You're not going to have a job tomorrow. Here we are swearing you in, pitch dark. Sure, it was COVID going on. I don't remember how that worked. Just go to work. Where? I don't know, some weird guy named Evan Bayless told me where I'm going to be. Just go somewhere. Really? I remember being at that beautiful hospital. This young woman comes to work for the first day in that building. It just feels like a movie, right? You're forced to now go work somewhere else and then drive out. I can't imagine. I'd love it. She's too nice to be honest. Drive out there, pull up. She had to walk by Hugh Hefner's house too. By the blood on the floor, whatever that was that you see on the carpet, wind up into this building. I just can't imagine. I mean, all of that's crazy, but that's your introduction to the place. That particular week, we didn't really have any organization. We can do this. We didn't do this at all. But I'm a desperate person at the time, and I was like, man, can't we just force everybody? I remember, God knows, Byron, there's a lot of people in here who, I forgot the word. What was the word where you just snapped? I don't know what the word we called it. Went over the edge or whatever the word we were calling it, but we all went over the edge at some point. But I was so desperate, I said, we got people coming to work in the sheriff's office. We don't even get to say hello. So angry I was. I said, I don't care. I remember. I don't care what the rules are. We're going to have an event in that conference room down the hallway, and by God, we're going to say hello to somebody. We hired 3 people. Some weird guy named Frank Fluitt. I hadn't even seen him yet. We forced somebody named Belinda McDowell, right? Howell. Yeah. My mind is. We forced her to come to work here. She didn't even know it. We've hired a lawyer because we're getting sued all the time. Don't know where she is either. Get them in a room. We're going to say hello to them. I don't even know who they are. We did that. I think 6 of us, arms apart, 7, hold your nose. I don't know what we had to do. But we're in this room. Is Frank in here? I saw him yesterday. Don't tell him I was talking bad about him. I just didn't know who he was. That's what I want you to know. I remember we get in this room and we're trying to get everybody to introduce each other. Tell us something about yourself you don't know, that we don't know. And I think Frank said he was scared of snakes or something, right? Some kind of scared of mice or snakes. That didn't fit his personality. I thought he could just snatch the snake off the ground the way he looked. So here's Belinda just telling us her story. So nice. You never would know she's in the room. And I'm thinking we've done really well. And then our new lawyer is in the room. And so I said, tell us something about yourself that we don't know. Now, of all of these people, today it wouldn't surprise you. But if I said our lawyer is going to introduce something that we don't know about or that we need to know, I don't think I would have guessed this would be what she would say. I got a foul mouth. Now, it is 100% accurate. It just didn't fit. And so Belinda stayed. Even knowing that, we've hired a lawyer with a foul mouth. Some guy named Frank who's scared of snakes. And we're in some god-awful building. I just think, I really do. There's a lot going on in life, but I think it's important. There's not Chief West, I'm sure that we've had a podcast come out about the whole Friedman thing this week. That's 5 years ago right now. Hospital, coming to work, graduation, 5 years ago right now. It's amazing to think, I don't know about you, I don't know whether I think it was 500 years ago. It can feel like that to me. I almost lived my life pre and post COVID. I don't know if that's right. My mind can't think about how long ago it was. It's amazing. In 5 years, what all has happened to all of us, to the agency. We're now in a building that looks a heck of a lot better than a hospital. We get to be in rooms with each other without worrying about how many feet you are. I don't even know if I care what exposure is. We used to have to, it was kind of like, I don't know, Facebook on steroids, where all your friends, that meant who you spoke to that day, right? Everybody was worried about, exposure, so everybody who had contact. So it's not something that you cherish, but it's an amazing part of our life, our story. And I still believe, as a sheriff's office, COVID wasn't our biggest challenge. There was so much going on. Trying to bring on 100 plus employees, trying to take on 400 plus inmates. We do that, we think we're pretty good, and then the next month they said shut the building down. Shut the building down and then move over to us. It's down in the weeds a little bit, but what was nominated, what Pete wrote actually about Belinda, is super, super important to what we do. And here's what I want you to know. That same time frame, it's not as simple as the inmates move across the street. When the inmates were living with CCA or Core Civic, it was a real simple arrangement. They bid a contract and said, we'll house inmates for $70 a day. The state sent $70 a day to us, and we sent $70 a day to Core Civic. No debate about what it cost. It's just like every other contract we have. They'll promise to do it for this price, and they got paid for doing it for that price. That's pretty simple. We were literally the pass-through. It didn't cost the city any money. It didn't really cost us any time. It was hardly much work because the contractor was being paid via the state of Tennessee. When everyone divorced, what happens is the inmates now live with us. We don't have a contract with the state promising that we'll do it for so much money. It goes the other way. We'll pay you back if you can prove what it cost you to do it. That's how it works. So guess what happens? The flip side of that is, forget just mailing a check here. We house them basically all year. Then we have to go justify the cost to the state, and then the state's not always easy to work with. So what happens is they want justification for your cost all the time. And so I don't want to get down in the weeds because I'm not an accounting person, but I've heard this for many, many years, and I understand a little bit about it, but it's not very interesting to get into. Trust me on this part. When you build a new building, it costs more money to house inmates in that new building. We built a very expensive new building. When you raise the salaries of your employees, it raises the cost of housing an inmate. When you raise the meal cost, it raises the cost of housing an inmate. So that's moving all the time. So the state of Tennessee likes to sit back there and go, yeah, I don't think it costs that much money. Literally. Even when you prove it. Why that matters to you and I is there is a lot of money at stake between what we think it costs and what they're willing to pay, always. So for 5 years, since this whole thing started, we have been justifying our costs, running into a brick wall saying, don't see that. It's not what I think. State of Tennessee sending us back and forth. Somewhere in the $6 to $8 million a year is debated. It's a lot of money. What that does for you and I is we get to go across the river and say, we need more money next year, and here's the money for last year, and it's covering all your costs to house these inmates. If it's not covering your cost, you and I have to walk in there and say, we're over budget again. This time last year, we're over there going, we're $9 million over budget. But some of it's their fault. And I hate to say it, I've raised kids. It doesn't matter to me that Johnny kept his eyes open during the prayer, right? The point is, they don't really want to hear it's someone else's fault. They want the money. And we're over there almost putting our reputation on the line because we can't get the state to pay us our money. And trust me, it's a political and financial problem. Belinda has been at the core of this whole thing for us this whole time. It is not really what Pete wrote. He was talking about how good of an employee Belinda is on a regular basis and how hard she's worked at this subject. But for 5 years, we haven't been able to get the money. Last week, for the first time, the state sends the documents and is authorized to pay everything they owe us. And that is so important to where we are. And here's why. We're trying to build a $300 million+ facility moving forward. If I'm having to go over there and say we need $300 million more, and I think the state will pay you the money, even though they haven't been paying you the money, that's not going to be easy to say. I can't guarantee you where we're headed, but I can at least tell you, as we sit for the first time ever, the city is getting the money that they deserve because it's what it cost us to do it. And it's accounting, it's political, it's financial debate, but it's a huge part of what we're trying to do. And I'm really super proud of Belinda, Christy, and everybody but Pete in the finance office for all the work. I really do. Let's give it up to everybody. It's a lot of work that they put into that, won't they? We are in the throes of trying to go ask for the money to build a new facility. We hope that would happen late this fall. We have some seed money that we're working with. We're leaving here to go do some work today upstairs on trying to make some initial planning for what we really need. We need a building that meets today's standards, and I don't mean TCI. I'm talking about housing the type of people that we need the beds for. Chief Joyner sends me this wonderful thing about every day, reminding me of how many people we're over and how many state inmates are backed up that need to go. And so we're trying to manage within this chaos until we can get what we need. My hope is that by the end of this calendar year, we are out there with some real money being spent to do some real good things and hopefully get the building that we need on that campus. It is a focus clearly of our agency, and I hope we can get what you need pretty soon. Buildings. Staffing is the opposite problem. I walked in here 2-3 years ago, said it's the most important thing we're going to do. It has been. We've worked extremely hard. We gotten somewhere in the neighborhood of 200+ correctional officer vacancies during that time. There was some guy named Maggard who makes more money than everybody here times 10 because we had every dime of overtime you can pay. I think $4 million is about the overtime cost. We should be about $400,000. We're at $4 million because we're short-staffed. All that was going on. We've done everything I know, including create part-time programs, to change our hiring procedures, to I tell people all the time, we do an onboarding on the front end that we're paying you just to walk around. We need you so badly. If we can just pay you to get you here, then maybe we can work you through it where you can't be looking for a job. We've done everything I know how to do, and it's, I think, for all of us, probably the most significant accomplishment here in the last 5 years is that. There's not another agency in the country right now has the vacancy rate we do, nowhere. Today, if people graduate and run real quickly into the spots before 2 people quit, we're probably fully staffed for the first time in probably 20 years. So that does not mean we don't have vacancies. It does not mean we don't have people on all sorts of leave, which are still challenges. But there's not another place I know of anywhere that is at the rate of vacancies that we are. I was on a podcast last night, and they were asking me about the Department of Corrections and hours and the police department staffing, and I said, I can tell you the police department and TDOC have a lot of vacancies. It's not our problem. It's not our problem. It's very rare to be in that situation. A lot of people deserve a lot of credit. Our HR folks, our training staff have worked extremely hard getting people brought on and trained up and ready to go, and we're in a place where we ought to be able to manage our staffing moving forward. We are overcrowded. What I tried to do, because we don't have a lot of relief there, we've authorized extra posts in buildings that are overcrowded on a consistent basis. If you just get us back to our regular housing number, there's 3 or 4 posts, which are a lot of bodies, that we're staffing today that we don't even have in our staffing plan, but we're doing that to help assist with the extra bodies of inmates. And so we're in a really good place as it relates to all of that. And I hope, it was an ironic conversation, Chief Hudson and Evan and I met this past week, and we were debating whether we back away from having so many classes. Just a year ago, we're begging to run a class every month so we can get as many people hired as we can because we're so short. Now we're in here going, yikes. What do we do? You know, do we slow down the whole process? Do we get bigger classes, fewer classes? How do you want to do it? So there's a lot that goes into that. I'm really, really proud of where we are in that major, major challenge. We still will have, as you can imagine, ongoing issues moving forward. We want to, make sure we have enough staff to do what we want to do here. So that's important. It's also budget time, which is where we're asking for what it takes to run the place. I love this phrase, but watch what you're good at. They'll ask you to do it again. That's why I never am good at helping people move. Pickup trucks, I don't own one. I dare you to own one because everybody's going to want your truck and you, right? That's not a good thing to do. But in a lot of ways, I think our efforts in a lot of things have caused us to be asked to do it more. Our security division has done incredible work over the last several years of taking on responsibilities in different buildings. We took over this year the historic courthouse. A year or two ago, we took over the Birch building. A year or two back, we took over hospitals. And so now the issue, are we going to take over Howard School? Are we going to take over water? Are we going to take over some of these other security divisions? Our security division is one of, if not the fastest growing, is surely one of the biggest places here and has chances to do more. I mean, we continue to move in that direction. So a lot happening with that. But we'll probably, like I said, we've got budgets. We're working on all that. We'll go through that formal process with the mayor's office and the council. A lot of conversation about immigration. I brought it up last time. It is ongoing. There's a lot of changes in the world of immigration. We've had council members and others this week reaching out because of it. But there's a lot of work going on. And what the politics, the media, the rhetoric, I'm not interested in that. I think it's important, though, that our role in this is we're the robots. We haven't changed one thing. Now, the fact that ICE may want more Carla West in the world, I can't change that. And if they put a detainer on her and they're more likely to come and get her now, that's ICE changing, that's not us. You see what and so the reason that's important is there's a lot of attention. We're following the state law, we must cooperate. They gave us a detainer, we got to follow the law. Right? But I don't want you to read that, I don't know, whatever they may write, right? Some of that's just the way it might be, who knows where we're going. But I don't want you to feel or hear that just because the numbers are going up, what's really happening is ICE is more interested in those people that they already knew about. See? But we're monitoring that monthly. We have all the data showing us what's going on, at least from our end. I just don't want you to misunderstand that we're back. But anyway, so there's a lot going on as it relates to immigration, but we are monitoring it, we're working on it, nothing's changed as the way we operate. I can't help what some of the changes that are going to come about. I think that's it. What else? So the Tennessean wrote a story called Chasing Einstein about the Alex Friedman thing. That was then picked up by the USA Today, and they ran with that story, and there's been all sorts of spin-offs of that. There's a really good crime podcast called Gone South. Doesn't that sound like the South? Gone South. Gone South is the name of the podcast. I didn't even know what a podcast was a year ago, but my sons tell me about it all the time. So they send me a link, I listen to them. I didn't even know how to find them, but I've learned. But it's a really, really good podcast, this one is. And it's basically, in our world, it's about, they've done the Alex Friedman story in their own words. But I think it's really well done. By the way, anybody a walking tall Buford Pusser fan? It's great. Back in my growing up days, I'm older than y'all, but that was good back then. He's done a really good podcast about a lot of that and some other things. But Gone South is the name of it. I know Chief West and some others have either sent some links out to it. If you get a chance, you want to listen to it. That's coming out. There's also, I've been telling y'all this a long time, it is going to be a movie. I just want to live long enough to see how y'all look in the movie. That's what I want to do. My goal is to, there's enough in there to make a bunch of movies probably, and that didn't have nothing to do with the crime, if you just listen to that. But there's a lot happening in that regard because of the USA Today thing, I believe, is what has got that started. So, and Mr. Conrad may need an agent before he's up. Does a great job in all of his. We have him on a 2-hour podcast. He said cat one time. I think we got him down to one time. Never been more nervous than I was sitting in the courtroom with him testifying and Judge Dozier and all this cross-examination thing going on. I just knew he was going to say, Roger that, you know, to Judge Dozier. But everybody did a great job. That was, what else we got? Anything else, Chief Hudson? Chief Raines, where are you hiding at? No good. Chief Joyner, no? They could not be further apart. That's only in location, though, I promise. Anybody have anything else? I need to meet with our core group. I guess we have that on the schedule. So anyway, upstairs when you get a 5-minute break. Everybody else, sometime today, I want you to reflect on 5 years ago in your life. It's healthy to do it. Crazy time in our life. We are hit by a tornado, about to move. That's our agency. I want you to figure out where you were with your life, your family, your kids, the situations, just because, I mean, it's unheard of. And that was what the world was going through. Our agency had its own challenges. And so fortunate to have 2 young women who came to work for us who are still here after they arrived at the death chamber called the hospital. So let's give it up for them. I want you to have a great rest of your day.